Did you know that the very foundation of modern chemistry, everything from the periodic table to how chemical reactions occur, can be traced back to one brilliant mind? This individual helped us understand that air, water, and the very elements of the earth are not mysterious, mystical forces, but are actually composed of identifiable components that we can study. And more importantly, we can use this knowledge to transform the world. Today, we'll dive deep into the life and work of the man often hailed as the father of chemistry. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Speak English Fluently, where we combine improving your English skills with fascinating topics from history, science, and beyond. In today's conversation, we'll be exploring the incredible contributions of Antoine Lavoisier, a man whose discoveries literally changed how we see the world. But before we dive into all the exciting details, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community. Now let's get started.
Hey, Emily, did you know that the way we think about chemistry today, like how we understand chemical reactions and even the elements themselves, was largely shaped by one man?
Really? One person did all of that? I've heard the name Antoine Lavoisier before, but I'm not sure what exactly he did. Can you tell me more?
Of course. Antoine Lavoisier was a French chemist in the 18th century, and he's often called the father of modern chemistry. His contributions were groundbreaking. For example, he's the person who named oxygen and hydrogen, which are two of the most important elements in all of chemistry.
Wait, he actually named them? That's incredible. But I'm guessing people already knew about air and water before Lavoisier came along, right?
Yes, people definitely knew about air and water, but they didn't understand what those substances were made of. Before Lavoisier, scientists and alchemists had all sorts of strange ideas about what air and water were. Some even thought that when things burned, they released a mysterious substance called phlogiston.
Phlogiston? That sounds odd. What exactly did people believe about it?
It was a widely accepted theory at the time. The idea was that when you burn something, it loses this mystical substance called phlogiston. People couldn't see phlogiston, but they thought it was there because they didn't know how else to explain combustion, why things burn. But Lavoisier proved that this wasn't the case. He showed that combustion, or burning, is actually a chemical reaction with oxygen.
That makes a lot more sense than phlogiston. So, Lavoisier discovered that burning involves oxygen. But how did he figure that out?
Lavoisier was a master of careful, precise experiments. He used something called the balance, basically a very accurate scale, to measure the weight of substances before and after a chemical reaction. When he burned something, he noticed that the total weight didn't decrease, which would have been expected if phlogiston was being released. Instead, he found that the substance gained weight because it was combining with oxygen from the air.
Wow! So he basically proved that matter isn't lost when things burn, but rather it changes form?
Exactly. And that led to one of his most important discoveries, the law of conservation of mass. It's a principle we still use in chemistry today. It states that matter cannot be created or destroyed in a chemical reaction, only changed from one form to another.
That's fascinating. So when we burn something, like paper, it doesn't just disappear into nothing.
No, it doesn't. The paper might turn into ash, smoke, and gases, but the total mass of everything, the ash, the smoke, the gases, adds up to the original mass of the paper. Lavoisier's experiments helped prove this.
It sounds like Lavoisier was really ahead of his time. But how did people react to his discoveries? I imagine that proving a widely accepted theory like phlogiston wrong must have caused quite a stir.
Oh, it definitely did. Lavoisier's work challenged a lot of the ideas that were popular at the time, but because his experiments were so carefully done and his evidence was so solid, many scientists eventually accepted his conclusions. He helped shift chemistry from being more like alchemy, a mix of science and mysticism, into a real, evidence-based science.
That's amazing. So he essentially helped turn chemistry into the modern science we know today. But I'm curious, how did he figure out other things, like that water is made of hydrogen and oxygen?
That's another fascinating story. Lavoisier conducted experiments where he passed water vapor through a hot iron tube. He noticed that the water seemed to disappear, but in reality, it was breaking down into two gases, hydrogen and oxygen. He figured out that water isn't an element like people thought at the time, but a compound made of these two elements.
So before Lavoisier, people didn't even know what water was really made of?
That's right. They thought water was one of the basic elements, along with earth, air, and fire. Lavoisier proved that water is actually a combination of hydrogen and oxygen. This discovery was another one of his groundbreaking contributions to chemistry.
He must have been incredibly smart. But I'm curious, did he work alone, or did he have help from other scientists?
Great question. Lavoisier didn't work entirely alone. In fact, one of his closest collaborators was his wife, Marie-Anne Lavoisier. She played a huge role in his experiments. Not only did she assist in the lab, but she also translated important scientific papers from English to French, illustrated his experiments, and helped him write scientific papers.
Wow, I didn't know his wife was so involved. It sounds like they were a great team.
They really were. Marie-Anne was incredibly intelligent and dedicated to helping her husband succeed. She made sure that his work was documented and shared with other scientists, which was very important in spreading his ideas.
That's so cool, but I've heard that Lavoisier didn't have a happy ending. Is that true?
Unfortunately, yes. Despite all of his incredible contributions to science, Lavoisier's life took a tragic turn during the French Revolution. He was involved in the government's tax collection system, which made him a target during the revolution. In 1794, he was arrested and executed by guillotine.
That's terrible. How could something like that happen to someone who contributed so much to science?
It was a tragic time in France. The revolution was very chaotic, and anyone associated with the old government, like Lavoisier, was in danger. Even though many people recognized his scientific achievements, his political connections ultimately led to his execution.
That's heartbreaking. But even though his life ended tragically, it sounds like his work had a lasting impact on the world.
Absolutely. Lavoisier's discoveries laid the foundation for modern chemistry. His work on the nature of elements, the role of oxygen in combustion, and the law of conservation of mass are all things we still learn about in chemistry classes today. He really did change the way we understand the natural world.
It's incredible how one person can make such a big difference. I'm really glad we had this conversation. I've learned so much.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, Emily. Chemistry can seem complicated, but when you start to see how everything fits together, it's really fascinating. Lavoisier's work reminds us that science is all about asking questions and finding the answers, even when those answers challenge what people believe.
Exactly. And now, every time I hear the words hydrogen and oxygen, I'll think of Lavoisier and his amazing discoveries.
Wow, what a deep dive into the life of Antoine Lavoisier. His story is not only about scientific discovery, but also about perseverance, curiosity, and the drive to understand the world around us. It's amazing to think how much chemistry has evolved because of his work. Thank you all for watching and practicing your English with us. If you enjoyed this conversation and want more exciting discussions about science, history, and language, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We've got plenty more to come, and you won't want to miss it. See you next time.